that Ukraine people were able to fight back like 3 years, as you have done now. And this is something that everybody believes now, that we can actually beat Putin. But politically, I see many leaders as well to think that maybe the good old times, the old so-called old business times, they will come back, but they never come back again. So the peace is there, the willingness of peace is there, but it cannot be without Ukraine, of course, without Europe, but it must be just peace and also long-lasting peace. And long-lasting peace needs as well the solid security guarantees, and from Estonian perspective, it can be only NATO full membership.
According to Mike Waltz, US President-elect Donald Trump's future national security advisor, Trump may soon speak with Russian terrorist, Russian dictator Vladimir Putin, but preparations for their possible meeting are still underway. ABC News reports. In your opinion, and also do you consider such context appropriate? What preparation are being made for the potential meeting between Donald Trump and Russian dictator, Russian terrorist Vladimir Putin?
It is obvious that Putin is afraid of Trump, and Putin is afraid of NATO as well. And even he plays like the strong game in the meaning of the international politics and relations. The case is that he has not changed the goal, and the goal was not only to gain some more territories. The goal was totally different, not only as well to destroy Ukraine and Ukraine nation, but also to destroy all the rules and order what we have agreed amongst democratic countries in the world. So the problem is that the meeting with Putin is a dangerous path. And I know that President Trump knows it very well. So if you have seen as well the President Trump's and his administration rhetorics during the last 1 month, it has been very disciplined in the meaning of topic of Ukraine and Russia, because he understands as well that it can be a trap just to meet. But of course, if President Trump will meet Putin, he needs to have a very strong position. It's the one thing. The second thing is that it is impossible to talk about Ukraine without Ukraine. This is very obvious. And also we can be very straightforward as well, that it is hard to talk about peace in Europe without Europe. So we need to have Ukraine and also Europe as well, Trump, in a very strong position to talk with Putin. So let's see when it happens.
Which strong position?
We're talking about, of course, the military level. We're talking about the battlefield. We're talking about the political level. We're talking about economical level. We're talking about as well the security guarantees for Ukraine. But it is not only about Ukraine. If Estonia is talking about the NATO membership, it's about us as well. It's about the European security architecture we create. So we need to talk about these things all together. We need to talk with a unique voice, united voice. So, but let's see, President Trump will enter the White House pretty soon.
We will see. And also we'll talk about NATO membership a little bit later, but we now see that the US is asking Europe to seize $300 billion in frozen Russian assets to bring Putin to the negotiating table, but Europe opposes it, reported by CNN. How could seizing $300 billion in frozen Russian assets influence the negotiations with the president, dictator Vladimir Putin?
Estonia started to talk about Russian frozen assets and the use of Russian frozen assets already more than 2 years ago. And I remember that we were pretty alone at this stage. Nobody believed, nobody wanted to talk about that. But for now, we are already using the profits, which has been taken from the frozen assets. And we are using them, and they have delivered to Ukraine already last year. And also they are guaranteeing the loan, $50 billion worth loan, which has been given to Ukraine already. So it was a first step. But the real part of the frozen assets, more than 300 billion euros, they are in Europe. And we are advocating heavily that we are going to use them. And I think that Putin is afraid of that, really, because these are the assets, if we take them, based on the principle that aggressor must pay. Then he's going to lose a lot, and of course Ukraine will gain a lot. But I believe in that principle, and more European countries, they are supporting that. So I do hope that pretty soon we will see this kind of decision to use the real part of the Russian frozen assets. And so I totally agree with President Trump or US administration that to push as well the European countries to use it. And I do hope that it will happen.
Hope. And also about sanctions, because Gazprom has been added to the US Department of the Treasury sanctions list following a new wave of sanctions imposed on Russian companies operating abroad by President Joe Biden as part of his ongoing efforts to target Russia's key revenue sources. President Biden implemented sanctions that now affect Gazprom's operations in Kazakhstan, along with over 30 Russian oil field service companies. In addition to its presence in Kazakhstan, the company's operation in Tajikistan, Serbia and Luxembourg are also included in the sanctions. How and what will it affect in the future?
We need to tighten the sanctions against Russia, and we need to cooperate with US. European Union has delivered already 15 packages of sanctions, and the next package is pretty well prepared. But we have as well this shadow fleet, you know, the Russian ships which are hidden under the different flags, and actually, you know, they are dealing with energy, oil, gas, and everything else. So we have a long way to go, but I do believe that we can sanction Russian economy more and on these strategic positions more and more. But still, there are different countries which are supporting Russia economically. And I do hope as well that the new President Trump will deal with that as well, together with the European Union. But still, with European Union, there are less trade, more than 60%, than it was like before the active war. So we have sanctioned a lot, but there are some loops still existing.
About NATO, we know that Estonia has a very clear position. The best working guarantee, not only for Ukraine, but for Europe, is NATO membership. And you said it is in our interest for Ukraine to become a full member of NATO because neutrality is a green light for Putin, as you said.
Exactly.
In our interview. So what are the main reasons Ukraine has not been guaranteed NATO membership yet? Are there political or military obstacles preventing Ukraine from joining NATO? How does Estonia plan to further support Ukraine in its effort to integrate with European Union and NATO?
I think that Ukraine has done a lot about reforms and preparing them to join the European Union. And I do hope that pretty soon we will open the first and the second chapter for negotiations, and no one is questioning about that. Sorry. But about NATO membership, it needs the consensus amongst 32 countries. And even for Sweden, it took more than a year to become a full member of NATO. So this is a political decision. But we need to understand as well that Ukraine is in the middle of the active war. And to become like overnight a full member of NATO, it means that as well that all NATO will be involved in this active war. But what we are talking about the working security guarantees. We are not talking about the Budapest agreement or the Minsk I, Minsk II agreement, but we need a real working military security guarantees. And the full membership of NATO is the most efficient and the only fully long-term working security guarantee. And it is not only about Ukraine, as you mentioned as well, it's about Europe, because the war is in Europe. And we, as a bordering country of Russia as well, more than 20 years already in NATO, we know exactly what does it mean. And of course, in the future, Ukraine will be the country with one of the most largest military power, as well stabilizing our situation in our region. So this kind of two-way approach is something what we see in the future. And that's why we are advocating for the full membership of NATO. It is hard to get right now, but it cannot be taken down from the table at all. So we need to continue, convince our allies. But first, we need to focus on how can we win the war together. How can Putin lose the war? And the main problem, I think, in the western part of the world is the fear. What happens if Putin will lose the war?